Total ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. It's called passive. They don't have any plans. They don't have any plans. So ಸತ್ತೋದ್ರೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. They don't have any plans. So active ಸತ್ತೋದ್ರೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. They have definite plans. So not ಸಾಯೋದೇ better. They have definite plans. So that's what we always call as the passive. A person thinks about it but has no specific plans. So here active, a person has specific thoughts or plans to end their life here. Okay. See here, suicidal attempt. It's a non-fatal self-harm act with the intent to end one's life but does not result in death. Some individuals survive attempts but sustain severe physical and psychological consequences. So that's what suicide attempts are very common in women. Suicide attempts are very common in women. So that's what you know. The male, female will have highest rates of suicide attempts, but the men sex is more often lethal. So that's what very important here. So we will look at an age factor here that I am discussing these factors here. See, when I am discussing about these factors here, so that's what women attempt suicide more, but the men succeeds more often here. The rate of successful suicide is about 70% in case of men and 30% in case of women here. In an average, in a year, 50,000 attempts of suicide takes place in a woman here. So look at that. So here, that's what they have a lot of suicidal attempts here. So that's coming to suicidal intent. The determination or desire to carry out suicidal act. Individuals with high suicidal intent may have a detailed plan, method, time, place, access to legal means, feelings of helplessness, hopelessness, and finality. Even though the cases for particularly. See here, we did the plan. Now, water tank ಹೋಗಿದ್ದೆ ಬಿಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನೀರೇ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ರೂಫ್ ಟಾಪಿಗೆ ಹೋದೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಜಂಪ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದು. ಸೊ ದುಃಖ ಮತ್ತೆ ಏನಪ್ಪ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ರೇಡಿಯಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕಟ್ಟಾಗ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೆದರಿಕೆ ಬಂತು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಟೆಂಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಡಿಸೈಡ್ ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಸಾಯಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ 6 months 1 year ಮುಂಚೆಗೆ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ 1 year ಮುಂಚೆಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಪರಿಹಾರ ಆಯ್ತು ಚಲೋ ಆಯ್ತು ಇಲ್ಲಪ್ಪ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ suicidal intent. They have access to legal means, feelings of hopelessness. They could also be a hopelessness and suicide are mostly correlated here. When there is hopelessness increases, risk of suicide also increases. That's what it is important that never lose a hope in your life. ತಪ್ಪದು ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಕೆಡ್ಸ್ಕೋಬೇಡ್ರಿ. ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಆಗೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. That's what ಬಾರದು ಬಪ್ಪದು ತಪ್ಪದು. It's very important that so that's what ಬಂದು ನಿದ್ದೆ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಹೋಯ್ತು ನಿದ್ದೆ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಬಂದಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಹೋಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ತಲೆಯ ಕೆಡ್ಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ. So that's what you know. Also remember that hopelessness part is very important. Yes. So very important.
Documented as highest suicidal rate regionally and rate globally and 2019. In 2000, according to the statistics of 2019. But here, the male has more mortality rate here and was particularly high at 18.0 per 1 lakh population. Coming to the second one, that is Europe. Europe has second highest suicide mortality rate. Here, in Eastern Europe, in particular, has been identified as region with highest suicide rate. In that only, Eastern was highest suicide rate. Then coming to the Southeast Asia, that is 10.2 for 1 lakh population. Here, this region has highest female suicide rate. Whereas in Africa, there was highest male suicide rate. So it at 11.5 per 1 lakh population. And in India, within this region, has been noted for its high suicide rates compared to 2019. India was noted as high suicide rate in Southeast Asia. So coming to the America, that is noted as 9.0 per 1 lakh Intelligence